Greetings, team. Welcome to Monday Morning Pearls, brought to you by Span the Chasm. My name is Randy Remersma. Before we get into the Pearl, I want to encourage you to go out and listen to our podcast, Uncommon Sales Success. It's a compilation of interviews with sales leaders across the space, some great learnings in here. Why does it matter to you? Because there's very practical and immediately actionable advice that's going to come out of these things. Learnings from mistakes, best practices that we're seeing playing out in the field, stuff that's going to help you be more successful immediately. Where do you go get them? Go to spanthechasm.com/podcast. All the information you need is there. It'll point you to all the different platforms that you might like. So with that, on to this week's Monday Morning Pearl. Hey team, welcome. Randy Remersma. We have a lot of conversations, as you might imagine, at Span the Chasm. People are constantly trying to refine their content and their message so that people will listen. And while we applaud them for that, there's a couple of things to think about before you worry about your content and whether or not people are going to listen to you that I think a lot of people miss. And here's a little shout out today I want to give to my friends over at Aslan Training and Development. They're a content partner of ours, and they have really been leading the marketplace from the concept of receptivity. What you say doesn't matter if someone isn't listening. And that might sound like a crazy and obvious statement, but so many sales reps that we work with are way into their pitch before they realize that nobody is listening. If they're leaning in, you can feel it, and they're listening. If they're leaning out, they're not listening. I want to be very clear. Your content matters very, very much. What you're saying must be great stuff. But from a receptivity standpoint, we need to create an environment where someone is going to be willing to lean in, because remember, you're invading their world with a message that they weren't expecting to get, maybe some implicit value that's been put out there, but they have to listen through this and prove out the content that, the idea that you're going to share with them. Randy, what are a few things I can do to increase receptivity? There's three things I want to share with you I think can go a long way for you. Number one, again, nod to my friends at Aslan, the idea of drop the rope. Oftentimes we as salespeople, we feel like we get in this tug of war with our client, pulling them over to our way of view, our point of view. If we were to actually drop that rope and not have that tug of war, not force our opinion, but create an environment that lets the prospect know that you have some ideas that may or may not make sense. There is no fixed outcome that we're seeking. We're really seeking an engaged conversation to see if something would make sense or not. So the idea of dropping the rope is very, very important, and it works in a lot of your personal relationships as well, said the guy who's been married for almost 25 years. The idea of taking the pressure off the conversation. I'm not, as a salesperson, here to jack you. I'm here to share stories. I'm here to talk about your environment and see if what we do makes sense or not for you. Lots of options. I'm not here to jack you. The second thing I just alluded to a second ago, using the word stories, is telling stories. People want to connect at a story level. They want to see themselves in the solution, in the story. So when you're telling stories about other clients that you have helped, it allows them to place themselves in that story and imagine what that outcome is. So storytelling is actually one of the best ways to create that experience that you're seeking them playing out the movie with them as the starring role. The last thing I want to throw out there that's going to help you create receptivity, that is emotions. We are emotional people, and so many of the folks that we work to, they sell a technical product, so they're selling to the rational side of the brain. Here's the problem. The rational side of your brain does not make purchasing decisions. What happens is your emotional side of your brain makes the decision, engages with that, and then checks with the rational side of your brain to say, hey, is this a good idea? Because I'm kind of digging this. So we have to sell to both sides of the brain. Problem is, so many sales reps focus so much on the rational side. Here's what this product can do. Here's what the return on investment will be, versus inviting them into an emotional conversation. How would it feel? What would your experience look like if? And inviting them to experience something emotionally versus just selling to the rational side. So for these three concepts, drop the rope, taking the pressure off the environment. Number two, tell stories. Allow them to see themselves in the narrative. And number three, selling to the emotional side of the brain as well as the rational side of the brain, so it can be a complete process, leaving nothing to risk. Those are three ideas I want to throw out there for you to be able to create more receptivity to your message so that they will actually have people leaning in more to you versus leaning away. You want to have a conversation about how we can put this in place for your teams? Love to talk to you about it. Please reach out to us. All the channels are listed up here on the screen. Thanks. Have a great day.